Comedian and podcaster Russell Brand was on Real Time with Bill Maher talking about the propaganda being declared by MSNBC and their host, which sparked a debate between Brand and MSNBC's John Heilemann. Let's watch.
I'd like to hear a specific example, a provable specific example of an MSNBC correspondent or anchor being on television saying something they knew was false and we're saying behind the scenes to people, I'm about to go out and we know that the election wasn't stolen or something equivalent.
Example.
But I will go out on television and say the opposite. I will lie.
When's my answer?
Just give me the specific example.
I understand the basic point.
Give me a specific example.
All right.
I'm with you. I think it's a false equivalency, Russell.
No, it's not. That's your own bias.
It's not about bias. It's a false equivalency because you don't actually know anything about any of these organizations you're talking about. Even on MSNBC once, big deal.
My darling, it was more than enough.
You can't come up with
such a
you don't have a single actual fact.
Do you want an example? Do you want an example?
Yes.
The ludicrous, outrageous criticisms of Joe Rogan around Ivermectin, deliberately referring to it as a horse medicine when they know it's an effective medicine.
Yeah, so Russell Brand went on quite a tear on Maher there. He's done a lot of great hits lately, giving voice to a lot of things that I believe, probably you believe to some degree, pushing back on the mainstream narrative, indicting the mainstream media, people at places like MSNBC and CNN, and that was an MSNBC person he was confronting there, for getting things wrong and being agenda-driven, and for not being critical enough of what health officials were saying, for not even considering how this would affect Pfizer's bottom line or Bill Gates' bottom line. Questions of large corporate power, something you would want progressive people to interrogate that's not being interrogated on those networks. That Russell Brand does a lot of interrogating on his own show on Rumble. So that was a pretty powerful clip.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, I think a lot of liberals who watch that are people who might be more aligned with John Heilemann will say, he asked for an example and they found that the fact that Russell Brand pivoted to ivermectin as the example less persuasive as some other examples that one might have given. But, it's also, look, I think that ivermectin, it wasn't the strongest moment for that section of the internet or section of politics, but the response to it from the liberal media, I think, does deserve criticism. So even, remember, Sanjay Gupta went on Joe Rogan and basically apologized, saying that he shouldn't have called ivermectin horse medicine or whatever. And so even if it wasn't indicated for all of the things that people were claiming it was indicated for, maybe not as effective as people were claiming, it also was being smeared in this way that was also not scientific or necessary, and I think caused a lot of the division that we're living with now. So I don't think that Russell Brand was bad to bring up that example, but it has been really interesting to watch other folks fill in that space, and the list is long of things that, of course, the liberal media has gotten wrong over time.
He also called out MSNBC for having barely anything to say about what's going on with Julian Assange, and that's something I pointed out on this show. The only mention of Assange in recent at the time we was talking about it, Assange facing extradition back to the U.S. There's credible reason to think they're all but trying to kill him. Essentially, a whistleblower, someone who shared with the public that the U.S. was engaged, had done criminal things that you deserve to know about, has had his life taken away from him because of it. Again, you'd think something. This actually gets coverage now because of Assange's crusade against Hillary Clinton. Didn't like Hillary Clinton. Didn't like her politics. Assange probably gets more defense in right-wing media. To be frank, MSNBC, only mentioning this in like a very narrow context. In like an opinion article somewhere.
Yes. And Jimmy Dore.
And their framing was about the potential for intelligence to be spread that the national security state doesn't want people to have access to in case he's brought back. That was their concern.
Yeah,
ridiculous.
Yeah, it is ridiculous. And I mean, Jimmy Dore has made this point before that he has been able to go on Tucker Carlson and make the case for Julian Assange in a way that he is never invited on the liberal media. And people who criticize him for going on there say, I can go on the biggest show in this time bracket. And even if it's not necessarily what Tucker Carlson wants to talk about, he has the ability to platform issues that are of significance and importance. And Russell Brand pointed to one hit that he did, one appearance that he did on MSNBC as enough to teach him exactly what limitations there are, shall we say, on that network in terms of messaging. And people dismiss that, oh, you've only been on one, you don't really know. John Heilemann says you don't really know enough about what you're talking about. But when you actually go back and watch that clip and how dismissive, again, they were of these kind of substantive issues,
yeah,
he has a point.
I probably would have gone, you had to prepare before the question was asked. You had to know it was coming. I would have brought up all the times people on MSNBC or CNN, again, describe, not to be, I know this is my hobby horse right now, describe the lab leak theory as a racist conspiracy theory that Trump is pushing, and so you should stay as far away from it as possible, of which there are tons of examples.
Yeah.
Well, journalist Tom Elliott decided to take Heilemann up on his challenge and posted a substantive Twitter thread filled with clips of Heilemann himself supposedly lying on air. The most recent clip is of him claiming the Biden administration's attempt to ban gas stoves was Republican fake news. Let's watch.
Political parties get addicted to sugar highs. It just happens that the sugar high that the Republican Party is addicted to is like bad bathtub meth. It's like they're high on that sugar. It's not just rotting their teeth. It's like rotting their brains at the same time. And it's rotting their ability to be competitive outside this very narrow piece of the electorate that's willing to believe this bullshit, as I will call it, even on this most holy of secular holy days. It's the worst.
You had to hear that. Yeah. Well, I had to apologize to whoever
Rev Sharkins never heard that word before in his life.
Yeah. This actually speaks to, it's almost more the tone sometimes, with the just incredibly dismissive tone of people who think outside a very narrow window, that they're not even, and they're not aware of how small and dwindling that audience is, of the people who just want to be confirmed about mainstream narratives. They're dripping with contempt. They describe, people who are watching conservative media as addicted to bad bathtub meth. It's that level of contempt, more so than any, because the gas stove thing was a little bit contemplated. There were the whatever agency it is does want to phase them out. Somebody got asked a bad question. No, there's no specific Democratic plan to get rid of them, but yes, there is some agency that wants to move away from them. So it was a little bit more in the middle than that. I think that's what we said on our show. But on then either side, you're getting, they're all coming for gas stoves, or no one would ever dare tell you can't do anything. We don't do that in this country.
Yeah, in the same way that I was critical of Tucker Carlson for disparaging, people who buy groceries to make some point about John Fetterman's mental capacity. I don't know that liberals should be in the position of denigrating people who have addictions to hard drugs to make some point about a conservative mindset. All of it is so ugly and so unnecessary. But, and I agree with you. I don't think that the stove example, the gas stove example, is the best example to show lies on MSNBC, because it's a more nuanced story than that, for the reasons that you mentioned. But Jimmy Dore did quote tweet this clip of Russell Brand with a list of what he perceives to be MSNBC lies. The Ukraine war is unprovoked. Russia stole the election. Russiagate conspiracy theories more broadly.
Russiagate, that's a great example.
That the vaccine stops transmission, that Ivermectin is dangerous. That's obviously what Russell Brand was getting at. And then he says some things that I don't necessarily agree with, but lab leak as racism is one of them. Clearly, there are a lot of things that the mainstream media the liberal media has gotten wrong. And again, I don't even say that as an indictment, but the posture that some in the liberal media have taken, that fake news is over there, real news is over here, we're the ones that can be trusted. They, no matter what the topic is, can't be trusted as an absolute measure. You hear something that came out on Fox, you dismiss it out of hand. That's what's leading to the siloing that is really hurting our politics. And moreover, we watch clip after clip of these ad hominem attacks. Who is talking about any policies, any bills that are going after the pharmaceutical industry? Who is talking about any policies or bills that are going to reform what's going on with the railroad industry? Who is talking about any actual policies or hearings that are going to reform these overreaches by the FBI? To the extent on that one, some people on the right, but there's absolutely no broader buy-in and no discussion of whether or not any of those reforms are necessary or not on the liberal media. It's a sad state of affairs.
Yes, it is. Well, that does it for us for today. Tomorrow on Rising, Team Rising is already working hard to plan a fantastic Wednesday show for you, so we'll just have to find out what it entails. I know, I can't wait.
Be sure to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss any content. And for those of you who like to listen while on the go, we are now available anywhere you listen to podcasts.
See you tomorrow.
Bye-bye.